But to have people look at you or look down at you and think you're not worth it, then you know what? It's like that old saying, isn't it? You know what I mean? You call me a dog for a month and I'll start barking at you. You tell me I'm worthless for long enough. You look down your nose. We see things. People in addiction see a lot. We're very observant. We have to be, because we're only cooking on half gas half the time. So we have to be twice as alert. You know what I mean? So when you're twice as alert, you pick up on little things. And it's the little things that you pick up on and you think, what's the point? They're already thinking of a scumbag. So I might as well just ruff, I'll just bark again. I'll bark because that's what I am, a dog. You know what I mean? And we're not dogs, we're all human, you know what I mean? And we're no one better than anyone else.
Everyone has value.
Everybody.
Sitting by my window with my potted plants, wondering why they came to die. Sitting by my front door, watching the world rain by. Why am I? Why am I homebound with you? Sitting by my bedside, waiting.
I want to share with you this. Is it rolling? Yeah. So I want to share with you this. So here I have a £20 note, and it's a crisp £20 note. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to crunch it up, and I'm going to chuck it down on the ground, and then I'm going to stamp all over it. And then I'm going to pick it up and ask, who wants this £20 note? And pretty much everybody would put their hand up. And then I'm going to crunch it again, and I'm going to chuck it on the floor again. I'm going to stamp on it again, and maybe even spit on it. But I'm going to ask again, who wants this £20 note? And pretty much everybody would put their hands up. And then I would say, come out and get it. Who wants this? And most people wouldn't come, but then somebody would come out and get it. So they would get the £20 note. But what we've learned there is two lessons. The first lesson is, no matter what I did to this £20 note, it never lost its value. And that's the same for us in life. We're going to go through a lot of challenges, just like I did, and just like many other people do when they go through addiction, the name calling, all of these problems. They're going to go for it, but they're not going to lose their value no matter what. And the second lesson is that if you want to change your life, you've got to get up and take action. And you've got to do it, and you've got to come and get the £20 note, or you'll never have it.
I bask myself in the sunlight of June, stretching out, my eyes close. My tired limbs felt brighter today. Not so tight today. Let this stay.
I think there's a few forms of stigma around it. Like when you're in addiction and you have a family who has to cope with that, even the family can be stigmatized. You know, especially when there's like two people in addiction, like me and my brother was. Yeah, there's a lot of stigma around that. You know, you just get treated differently.
I suffered from every aspect, from the social services, from when I've been into hospital, from the treatment I got. Having my son should have been a happy time in my life. And they actually isolated me at the bottom of the ward in a cubicle with 6 beds in it. And so I had nobody to talk to, and this was at the end of the ward, so even when visitors come, nobody had to walk past me because Mum was at the bottom of the ward. So yeah, I felt really isolated. Yeah, like scum really.
Her heart was like the flower of an African daisy, outshining its hues as night fell.
Alki, druggie, lowlife and a fool. That is just some of the names that they give to you. People can be cruel and find it easy to judge. It must be so hard to live a life with a grudge. My journey's a path of grief and sorrow. I wanted a new life that I could borrow. I didn't want a battle, but addiction declared war. Each knock stigma gave me made me stronger than before. I will not give up. I will not give in. You won't make me fail. I won't let you win. A mother, a daughter, auntie or wife. I am more than a model. I have a life. My recovery is what makes me who I am today. I am more than an addict. This is what I have to say.
Of her face, like a story as she smiled at the passing stranger. Then fair.
Okay, so my take on stigma is that you're treated in a different way than the general public are being treated. Or that you would treat, your next door neighbour just because of this information that you know that they take drugs or alcohol. That's what I take of stigma. But then also, the family can also be affected as well, treated differently. So you'll get bullying in schools, you'll get isolation, and really I think people withdraw from services or that need to try and get that help in the first place because of stigma and the barriers to come and get help.
Sticks and stones may break my bones. Bones will heal in 6 weeks. Calling names will always hurt me. These feelings are in heaps.
What do you understand about stigma, especially in relation to drug and alcohol use? Stigma to me, what it means to me, stigma is having tarred them all with the same brush sort of attitude to, I'm often phrase I've heard, because as I said, my demons was the alcohol, was a dirty pisshead, stinking pisshead, or dirty smackhead. You hear that a lot, you know what I mean? And that's to me, that's stigma in a nutshell, really, to be honest. And it's, to be honest, it's disgusting when you look into it deeply and how much it affects people in addiction. See, I've got a bigger.
Heard a lot more about it since we've been talking about this, but I suppose it just means being biased towards someone, and It tends to be in your language, in your actions. That's what stigma is to me.
Not just services like ours, but any other services where you think or you feel you may have been treated differently just because you may be
Right off me, most definitely yes. And I can name quite a few examples. The police, when they pull you, I mean, again, since not using, I don't get pulled by the police anymore. Shops, when I used to go into shops for a pint of milk, they always got a security officer following you. Not always, but I would say a good 90% of the time. And hospitals, doctors, if I ever went to doctors for anything, his first word was, "You're not having any sleepers." Doesn't matter what I went in for, whether it was a headache or... And if I went to walk-in centre, that was another place. You used to get a certain look off the nurses like, "Oh God, it's one of these again." And even if you were on the wards in the hospital, you felt like you couldn't wait to be out the door. And it's you notice it at the time, but you don't care because you that know yourself anyway. You feel terrible about yourself, about your life. It's only after when we stop using drugs that you actually notice you're not getting followed anymore. I'm not getting searched every other day after walking, and now the nurses go, "Oh, well done, you're in recovery." And it's a different world.
When you're an addict, either drugs or alcohol, but you get labelled. Now, to me, I've found that stigma sticks because I've been an alcoholic for 20 odd years, and I know friends and things who's fell off the wagon and who's turned to drugs and hard drugs, and they've managed to be able to get away from them, but because they was doing it initially for a couple of years of their life, they're now labelled with, I don't like to use the words, they're called smackheads and crackheads, and now if she's out and about in town, people will shout and they'll use that name instead of calling out a name.
Crawling out a safe space to go.
I was 4.5 months pregnant, and through a traumatic experience, I ended up losing the baby. And I got rushed into A&E, and I ended up in a cubicle. And one of the first things we got taught when I became a drug addict was, if you ever go to a hospital, you have to tell them that you're on a methadone prescription, because if they need to give you any other medication, it might interact with it. So that's the first thing I said when I got in hospital, was I was a registered drug addict. Now, basically, the baby was half coming out when I got into this cubicle. And I told this nurse that I was a registered drug addict. And anyway, she said, "If you feel like pushing off your crops." Well, I'm left there for a hell of a long time, looking at the ceiling. I pushed my baby out. I knew it was going to be fully formed. I knew it was going to be perfect. And I didn't want to look. I didn't want that memory. So I didn't look. But I didn't know this. When the baby's out and the afterbirth isn't, you just carry on bleeding. And I was left in this cubicle for over 35 minutes, looking at the ceiling, not knowing what was going wrong. Every time I lifted my head up, my head was going dizzy. And then the woman came in and she's just panicked. She just hit the panic button, wrapped an hammer in the cord, pulled the cord snapped. I had to see 3 different doctors trying to get the afterbirth out, and then they had to put me to sleep to actually make sure everything was out. So that was another traumatic experience.
yeah, it was an emergency. I shouldn't have been left on my own. Yeah, and I nearly bled to death.
Do you think was a reason why you were left on your own?
Maybe she's going to get protection to protect from because of AIDS being rife. Maybe it was to get protection because I was a registered drug addict. But I think being left alone for 35 minutes with the baby basically between my legs, she wouldn't have known it wouldn't have been long. She shouldn't have left me for that long. She should have left me on my own. Yeah, that was very traumatic.
But first, to the worrying rise of a dangerous drug that's ruining lives.
Dangers of ketamine use. The drugs recover.
Cocaine and ecstasy are just some battle against lethal drug abuse.
The devil's drug.
I perceived it, what I felt that others thought of me was that just scum of the earth. You know, you must rob. You know, and you've got to inject, you know, and all the rest of it. And you, just like that Trainspotting film, you know, I don't think that really helped many of us that was living true life in addiction, you know, to heroin and crack cocaine, because it wasn't really like that, like it was on the film. But I also think that, you know, we were saying about hierarchies of addiction. And like the alcoholics will think they're not as bad as the drug addicts. The drug addict that smokes heroin thinks they're not as bad as the injector of the heroin. And so you're always thinking, well, I'm not as bad as them. You know, and then once you start talking to that person and realise they are an individual with thoughts and feelings, and actually I can relate to them.
I can recall a moment, my mum lived in Huyton, and I was on the way to work one day. I stopped at the traffic lights, and in the corner of the eye you notice some people, you know, they're about to cross the road, and it was my mum.
Yeah.
And she, you know, she didn't look well.
Yeah.
And clearly she'd been drinking. And as someone who brought you up, who brought you into the world, who you love, you know, and you only want the best for them, to feel pity for them was something I can never really forget. It really hurts me because I judge myself for it too. She's my mum. I should never pity my mum. But at that moment I did. And I think that's been some of the reasons why I've never really spoken about it really, because in the way it all happened, and in the way I used to think other people are watching, other people are looking, and they'll judge, but they won't put their hand out and say, can we help?
I think with doctors especially, you know, going to the doctors, all they see is an addict, and they think you're after something like pills, sleeping tablets, and yeah, there's a lot of stigma around that. Especially my brother, he wanted to get help because he was feeling really low. He had mental health problems, he had an addiction. And when he went for help, they just didn't see him, you know. He asked for the help, and then a couple of weeks later he committed suicide. So, yeah. I mean, he tried to reach out the best he could, and yeah, that was something that affects many families, you know, and it's to be forgotten.
With regards to the stigma, my girls, I think, have put up with a lot because of the stigma around my addiction and my behaviour. And in schools and things, like I said, they've been gone to my mum's and things, so kids in school was saying, where's your mum gone? Where's your mum gone, Susie? And you've not got your mum's not with you. And they were still both at primary school then, which was hard for them because they knew I'd gone to get better, but in their eyes, they didn't know where I was going, what was happening. They didn't even know if I was going to come back. But they put up with a lot through the stigma in school because different mums were saying different tales, and obviously kids overhear it and things, and then kids are repeating things in school, and that's what they had to put up with.
As I was saying, all of them challenges that I'd been through, the addiction, the sort of mental health problems, and not knowing that I would be able to change my life. I think that was one of the big things. I never thought I would ever be able to change my life way back then. But then I've come through all of them, to gain qualifications in youth work, to gain qualifications as a counsellor, to more importantly get married to the love of my life, and have another 2 children, and have 4 children, and now a grandson in total. My life be so completely different to what it was back then. I just never thought that was possible.
Yes, one of the main things I think that what will change people's attitudes is actually sitting in a room, getting to know some drug addicts, and getting to talk to them and getting them to tell some of the stories, because you don't see a drug addict as a person. I've never been seen as a person. I've just been seen as an addict. I talk. People don't give you the time of the day to get to know you, but when you get to know them, you'll realise that drug addicts are some of the most loving, loyal people you will ever meet.
I do think, even though drug addicts are known, and I mean, how many times I've failed and failed and failed and failed, but you have to keep trying for that one attempt that might work. You know, and that one attempt that does work, any encouragement I got was certainly, grateful for, and I needed at the time. I didn't need all the negative stuff, but whether they both come hand in hand, I don't know. But I do think if you could support somebody more encouragement, even though you might know that they're going to fail 5, 6, maybe even 10 times, 18 times, whatever. But on that 19th time or the 20th time, it might work. And that person's got to be worth that chance, to give them that chance. We're all worth a chance.
Golden as the birds still sing to us. birds still sing to us.
Well, I think, a non-tokenistic voice is the main thing. The role of lived experience today in services is quite massive and valued. And I think, we talk sometimes about co-production, and I loosely look at that in a different way, because sometimes when people are not well, they may not always be able to offer that view of what does co-production look like, in a sense. So I think at different stages of recovery, lived experience has a different role in that journey for not just themselves and their peers, but also for the way services are shaped and the policy that's made too, and that's quite important. So developing a lived experience community and really bolstering that has been a way of giving that group a voice. And I think and I hope it has shaped, it's certainly made some improvements in the way stigma can be addressed.
I'll tell you what would be the best thing to do is, right, for people who do suffer with stigma or are aware that they do stereotype, you know what I mean? My best advice is stop and ask. Stop and ask. Stop and ask the question, you know what I mean? Are you alright sitting on that floor while it's raining, mate? How did you get there? I mean, how did you get there? Is there anything I can do to help you get off that floor? You know what I mean? Even just saying something like that to someone in addiction, can give them that spare for the next day to go, do you know what? They were lovely them yesterday. They open me. Not everyone's looking down the nose at me, So, tomorrow I will get up and I will brush my teeth and I will comb my hair and I will change my clothes. Just that.
Recovery is contagious if it's done in the context of peer support. So I want what you've got. I want to recover like you, and I don't just want to be well, I want to be better than well, because I can see you doing that. And when the community embraces that from a Recovery Cities point of view, the stigmatisation, if you can remove the stigma and the community came forward, the recovery outcome is much more improved.
I think education is the main key. Letting them know they're not alone. Making sure the family's taken care of. And just educating social services, NHS staff, people in CGL. The education's definitely.
I spent all last year being ashamed of all the years that I'd wasted, and now I think it was training for this job, for the job I did. So yeah.
So if you see someone blue, give them a little smile. It will make them feel alive, even for a little while. So please consider how other people are feeling. Then they will have a chance of healing.